After 25 years, the European Medical Device Directive MDD is replaced by the Medical Device Regulation, the MDR. A major change for US medical device manufacturer, but also as importer, EU representative or engineering partner. In this video you will learn the 5 most relevant changes you must know. The Medical Device Regulation is a monster, 177 pages. Instead of 23 articles in the MDD, we are now talking about 123 articles. Are these guys completely nuts? Why this explosion in size? Wasn't the MDD, the good old Medical Device Directive, not good enough? It all started in the 1990s. A French manufacturer filled breast implants with low-quality industry silicone. Thousands of women were affected, hundreds were forced to explantation. I was interviewed in public German TV as an expert for medical device regulations. One of the questions I was asked, we need new laws, don't we? Already then my answer was, no, not at all. We do not have a lack in regulations, we have a lack of enforcement. European authorities didn't actively monitor the market, at least not sufficiently, also not in this case. It was the FDA warning first. The European response came late, but impressively and inadequately. They came up with the MDR, and this is what we now have to deal with. The MDR replaces both the MDD and the Directive for Active Implantable Devices, the AIMD. The IVD is replaced by the IVDR. European directives address European nations. These nations must implement the directives as national laws. Companies and citizens must follow national laws. In contrast, EU regulations, such as the MDR and IVDR, become effective immediately without national laws. Okay, what's now new? I'd like to mention the 5 most relevant changes. Let's get started with the first change, the conformity assessment procedures. Good news first, we still have conformity assessment procedures, and it is still the manufacturer declaring the conformity. In other words, Europe did not introduce an agency approving products such as the FDA or the EMA, the European Medicine Agency. Only for Class 1 products manufacturers can declare conformity without involving a notified body, as in the past. Obviously, all the numbers of the annexes were changed. What has been Annex 2 in the MDD is now Annex 9 in the MDR. There is no longer an appendix product quality assurance. Either a notified body verifies all products or there is a quality management system for the entire production. The requirements in all appendices are much more granular and specific as they used to be in the MDD. For critical products such as active implants or products with absorbable materials, special procedures have to be followed. New is the involvement of expert panels for certain critical products. The European Commission's trust in the competency of notified body is limited. The goal of a conformity assessment procedure is to prove compliance with the essential requirements, now referred to as general safety and performance requirements. In the past, manufacturers used harmonized standards to prove compliance. Now the European Commission additionally introduced the so-called common specifications. These are, quote, a set of technical and/or clinical requirements that provides a means of complying with the legal obligations applicable to a device, process, or system. In other words, manufacturers must follow both harmonized standards and common specifications. Aren't there sufficient standards? Aren't the standards sufficient? The trust in the work of central committees also seems to be limited. By the way, the EU foresees common specifications not only for essential requirements, but also for other domains, such as post-market, clinical follow-up, technical documentation, and clinical investigations. Second change, classification. The MDR still operates with the 4 classes 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. And the MDR still works with classification rules. This mind map shows all the rules. The color of the flags indicates the changes. Green and blue stands for no or minor changes, orange for major changes, and red reflects new or completely rewritten rules. Most of the red changes are due to the fact that the MDR now also covers the active implantable products. However, one change addresses software. As you can read is, quote, software intended to provide information which is used to take decisions with diagnosis or therapeutic purposes classified as Class 2A or even higher. As medical software nearly in all cases serves the purpose of diagnosis and therapy, otherwise it wouldn't be a medical device, kind of no Class 1 software is left. A drug management system, in the past Class 1, is now Class 2B or even Class 3. A patient data management system, at least Class 2B. This is a disaster for all startups, for all medical app and standalone software manufacturers. This rule is another killer for innovation. I really hope that these guys writing such rules won't need one of the medical products they prevented by introducing the Rule 11. Next, essential requirements, respectively general safety and performance requirements. These requirements are still laid down in Annex 1. However, the number of words in these standards doubled. On top of that, the new Annex 2 was introduced describing requirements for the technical documentation. There is a document with a detailed comparison between the old and the new Annex 1. I'll give you the download link for this document at the end of this video. I summarized these changes in another mind map. Lots of changes relate to the instruction for use and to software. Just for the sake of an example, let's dive into the software. IT security is now explicitly mentioned. Manufacturers have to take the specific features of different mobile platforms into account, if it is a mobile application. MDR demands to address screen sizes, contrast ratios, the physical environment as lighting and interoperability issues. A development process needs to be defined and followed. Software must be verified and validated, both in-house and in the actual or simulated environment. This must include different hardware configurations. If you develop compliant to IEC 62304, you already fulfill most of these requirements. And this concept holds true for most of the changes the MDR introduced. A lot of these requirements that have been demanded in the standards only are now part of the MDR. Thereby, the MDR requirements are more specific and complete in comparison to those in the MDD. If you aren't selling in the US market already, the next change might hit you big: the unique device identification. This is a unique number consisting of a device identifier and a product identifier. The former should be unique, for example, for the device type or the trade name. The latter ID should be a lot or a serial number. Not only the products, but also the packaging has to bear UDI labels. The idea is to trace all devices, to facilitate fast product recalls, and thereby to enhance post-market safety. UDI is also supposed to help fighting counterfeit devices. UDI supports tracking of products from development, registration, to sales, logistics, post-market surveillance, to purchase, to actual usage, and so forth until disposal. You see, this doesn't only impact the manufacturers, but also the entire logistics chain, the customers and authorities. Major new requirement. Think of all the IT systems that must handle UDI data. Think of the changes to the labeling. By the way, manufacturers must persist UDI data in a European database, the EUDAMED. EUDAMED also collects post-market data. The changes to post-market that MDR introduces are substantial. The Medical Device Directive barely addresses post-market surveillance and post-market clinical follow-up. The Medical Device Regulation, however, now has 2 dedicated chapters. I'm talking about chapters, not just articles. Additionally, there are 2 new appendices. Let's start with the post-market clinical follow-up. This is per definition a continuous process that updates the clinical evaluation. The requirements with respect to clinical evaluation also became very specific and much about the MEDEV 271 revision 4. Don't underestimate the efforts to come up with the PMCF plan, to continuously collect and evaluate data and to keep not only the critical evaluation up to date. Even a little broader is the scope of the pre-market surveillance. Also here, data have to be systematically and continuously being collected, updated and evaluated. But the outcome of this activity is not just an updated clinical evaluation, but any other measure such as process improvements, medical device reporting, product recalls and other corrective and preventive actions. MDR gives pretty close guidance on planning, on data sources to be considered, on evaluation of data and on possible measures to be taken. Besides these measures, manufacturers must compile reports, either a post-market surveillance report, in case of Class 1 devices, or a periodic safety update report for the other classes. Depending on the class, these reports even must be submitted to the EUDAMED. Depending on the class, also the frequency of these updates varies. Obviously, there are many more changes introduced by the MDR than just the 5 ones which are briefly introduced. There are new requirements with respect to quality management systems. There are new roles such as the person responsible for regulatory compliance and. However, already the 5 changes will cause major workload for any medical device company selling in the European community. My tip: get familiar with the MDR as fast as possible. More than 170 pages don't sound like fun. But you don't have to read them all. I dissected the beast in a mind map. This helps you navigating the MDR easier. The mind map as well as the slides are part of our starter kit. Download the starter kit right away from our website. It's free. Additionally, I'll upload another video introducing the steps how to migrate from MDD to MDR. We at the EUDAMED Institute support hundreds of medical device manufacturers to master this transition. As we are also working for notified bodies, we exactly know what needs to be done to market your device now and in the future without hassle and unnecessary burdens. If you need any help, just let us know, contact us, you are not alone.